Okay. Wow, I feel like the mic spiked. So, this is the last LSE chapter of 2024. At least on my end. I think for some people it's already the new year. But today, we'll be reading from chapter 217. We're shooting for like an hour of reading. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe no, not less. Maybe like an hour, a little bit more, you know, because I know I did have to end stream, at least for the New Year's. But if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Easy Geeky. We had a crazy ass milestone this year. We passed 1,000 subscribers. I never thought that happened. During that 1 week break, we've gained over like 100 subs. That literally took me months to gain. But thank you guys. No, we're not stalling. Oh wait, I still have. Wait, hold up. I have the wrong chat open. Wait, hold up. I'm looking at the chat from the last stream. All right, I just want to say thank you guys for joining, man. No stalling. Yeah, I know. DK is fire. I know. I'm gonna download it right now. During Lord of Mysteries, whenever there's an ad break. No, I'm fucking kidding, guys. No, I'm already swearing 1 minute into the video. No, we messed up. LOTM time? I know. Let's start, bro. Are you guys ready? Chat on screen frozen? Oh, snap. First, okay. While we are doing our intro, we will refresh this live chat. I just want to say thank you, guys. I love each and every one of you for joining me on this beautiful journey. We've gone 200 plus chapters into Lord of Mysteries. Oh my god, the chat's loading like rapid fire. But for now, Lord of Mysteries, chapter 215, Mr. Door's description. Okay, we have a new Mr. Okay, let's go, bro. Let's see what happens. Mr. Door. This naming style is very... I'm already mispronouncing words. First sentence of the chapter. Oh my god. Mr. Door. This naming style is very similar to mine. I wonder what was the real name of this pathetic... The heck? I wonder what was the real name of this pathetic fellow who was lost and trapped in the deep darkness amidst the storms is, and what his sequence is, or rather, just as Emperor Rizal had guessed, he's one of the evil gods or devils. Klein let out a silent chuckle, which was mixed with ridicule and self-deprecating humor. He was also interested in the history of the Fourth Epoch. I know of the most famous wars of the Fourth Epoch, and the Fourth Epoch, but the specific... I know of the most famous wars of the Fourth... I read that wrong again. I know of the most famous War of the Four Emperors in the Fourth Epoch, but the specific details and the main figures involved are limited to the information spread by the major churches. For example, the Dark Emperor of the Solomon Empire. Oh, this is the second time this dude's been brought up. It wasn't until today that this so-called Mr. Door finally answered my questions by letting me know who the remaining three emperors are. That is a One Piece reference. Okay. I lost my place. Finally answered my question by letting me know who the remaining three emperors are. The half-insane Blood Emperor of the Tudor Dynasty, the Night Emperor of the Turnasset Empire, and the Emperor of the Underworld of the Southern Continent, also known as Death. So Mr. Azek's great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was the Emperor of the Underworld of the Southern Continent, also known as Death. According to Mr. It's crazy that Klein is he's in relations, and like he's in relations with somebody of like that type of like scale. That's kind of scary, dude. Look at Milos's message. Mr. Door was actually mentioned in the very first Rizal diary page that Klein read, but in it he was only referred to as that pathetic fellow. Ain't no way. I lost my place. Count one. Yeah, let's keep count. Luckily, we paused the video. I don't think we paused it. Really? So, Mr. Door was mentioned from the very first beginning. Okay, lots of very big name drops today. Oh, okay, here we go. Oh, man, my notes are going to be like 50 pages, huh? Oh, my goodness. It wasn't until today that this so-called Mr. Door finally answered my questions by letting me know who the remaining three emperors were. Okay, I just reread that. Okay, I did not lose my place. So we can still keep it at count one. According to Mr. Door's description, in this war that changed the situation of the entire world, the Dark Emperor, Blood Emperor, and Night Emperor fell one after another. The Emperor of the Underworld reaped the greatest benefits. Having said that, Mr. Door added with a profound significance that after over a century of what? He had to digest for 100 years? He probably wasn't that good. What's going on? Having said that, Mr. Door added with profound significance that after over a century of digestion, Death went mad, but he also became stronger. Therefore, Death teamed up with the primordial demoness and brought about a pale disaster for the northern continent. Oh my god. This is so much. Of course, this isn't something he witnessed personally, but rather something that he hears when he comes close to the real world every month. Death went mad, but also became stronger. Even deities can go mad. Because deities were former beyonders that digested their sequence 1 potion and went from like demigod powers to like actual god powers. That's why. That's why even deities can go mad. Remember this lore. I know. I probably won't remember until it's in my notes, but we will do our best. Off stream today. Even deities can go mad. What a horrifying sentence. However, this also confirms my guess. Before the 5th epoch, those deities would often descend into the real world, directly interfering with the situations of the northern and southern continents. This might even personally appear just like death. I asked Mr. Door if he had participated in the War of the 4 Emperors. If so, what role did he play? Man, this is kind of making me want to read One Piece now. And what was the position of the 7 deities maintained in this war? What role did they play? Mr. Door didn't answer my question. He only said in a teasing manner that the number of preeminent mighty figures in the 4th epoch far exceeded my imaginations. In addition, he also mentioned 2 laws. One is the law of Beyonder, characteristics indestructibility, and the other is the law of similar sequence Beyonder, characteristics conservations, which is consistent with certain things that I have learned from the most secret and ancient organizations, and also from some of the phenomena I have observed. This can lead to many interesting conclusions. Many explanations take on other forms, making one's mind tremble in horror. For example, when there are too many high sequence Beyonders in the same sequence pathways, the low sequence Beyonders would reduce and vice versa. The Beyonder characteristics had been fixed at the source. It will not increase or decrease. Does this mean that there really is a God who created all the deities, and omniscient and omniscient and omnipotent and omniscient God, the true creator, and everything originated from him? This was the longest Roselle diary that Klein had ever seen. It took up 2 full pages, and one could imagine that it originally came on a double-sided page. It only became 2 separate pages after repeated copying. That is actually a lot of information. That is a lot of information. Let me put my volume up a bit. That is a lot of information. Klein sighed silently. As a history student who has graduated normally, he'd always believed that the Solomon Empire and the Tudor dynasty and the Transoest, I read that wrong, empire came one after the other in a line with a certain degree of restoration before a new political outcome was established. To his surprise, the War of the 4th Emperors, described by Mr. Dory clearly and unambiguously, revealed one thing. All 3 emperors had existed at the same time. If this were true, then it would really overturn most of the current research of the 4th epoch in the field of history. Klein suddenly thought of the original Klein, who was filled with interest towards archaeology. He's still here somewhere. Some way, shape, or form, the original Klein is still here. And the history regarding the 4th epoch. Wait, you know what? Let me save it for the end. Today, I've helped him achieve... Let me save what I was going to say right now for the end of this chapter. Today, I've helped him achieve his wish. I wonder if Death has already become a true deity during the War of the 4 Emperors. It's hard to determine according to Mr. Door's description. I can only first assume that the Emperor of the Underworld, who had attained benefits of the War of the 4th Emperors, had broken through his limits and become a deity, but he also went mad as a result. To have a deity go mad was truly terrifying. Just thinking about the details makes one tremble from the bottom of their hearts. It's no wonder that the knowledgeable Emperor Roselle would use the word horrifying to describe this matter. Could it be that the so-called evil gods were crazy orthodox deities? Will that mean that there might be only evil gods left in this world one day? Are we implying that the 7... No. I thought he was implying that the 7 orthodox gods were went crazy. Right? And it's like a front. Man, does this mean that the end of days cannot be stopped? Klein smiled to hide the growing solemnity of his emotions. He felt that the future he imagined was filled with a dark gray hue. At the same time, he raised his evaluation of the Dark Emperor, Blood Emperor, and Night Emperor, believing them to be the preeminent mighty figures who were close to being deities. Perhaps that means that sequence 1 is the peak existence of a single pathway. According to this logic, for Dark Emperor to live for centuries over a millennia wouldn't be unacceptable. That would explain that the original Klein's confusion. He had obtained contradictory findings from the content regarding in the Antigonus family's notebook with his own mentor's viewpoints. He believed that the Dark Emperor was the common name used by every emperor of the Solomon Empire. Oh, not just referencing one of the 4. Perhaps the Dark Emperor has always been the same Dark Emperor. Of course, other possibilities cannot be eliminated. For example, they could have been replaced by 2 or 3 times, but in the name of the pathway sequence 1 Dark Emperor. But is the name of that pathway sequence 1 Dark Emperor? Oh, and that's why there's been so many Dark Emperors, because there's a, like, you have to act as a Dark Emperor. I wonder who Mr. Door is in the history of the 4th epoch. Emperor Roselle didn't go into detail when describing his erroneous experiments and accidental coincidences, making it impossible for me to even try to converse with that Mr. Door. The laws of Beyonder characteristics, indescribability, and similar sequence of Beyonder characteristics conservation share the same description as the one used by the captain. Perhaps the term he used came from Emperor Roselle. According to the 2 laws describing by Mr. Gate, there's Mr. Door, Mr. Gate, and now we have Mr. Fool. According to the 2 laws describing by Mr. Gate, we can indeed deduce a lot of interesting speculations. For example, with there being so many holy artifacts and high sequence beyonders in the 7 churches, there shouldn't be many low sequence beyonders. But this contradicts reality, and the only reasonable explanation is an additional gift from the deities. For example, is the destruction of the nation of the Avernite due to the conservation of characteristics that the mere possession of the resources caused it to be trouble? Or could it be said that their existence seriously weakens the potency of Avernite pathway and threatens the position of the goddess? That's what I'm thinking. No, man, Mr. Gate. My bad. Yeah, Mr. Gate was name dropped. For example, theoretically speaking, certain sealed artifacts could also be used as the main ingredients for the potion materials, or they could even be considered equivalent to potions. Of course, the prerequisite is to remove all latent dangers and madness. No wonder the documents that were unearthed called the 4th epoch the epoch of the gods. So it turned out that in the epoch there are many records of deities descending. Then what caused them to stop coming to the point of there not being any revelations? Because the churches are hiding the acting method. That's why there were so many, like, gods descending, right? Because there was a shit ton of Beyonders that were, like, hitting, like, godhood abilities. But probably, maybe? I don't know. Many ideas came to Klein suddenly as he felt that he had delved deeper into the realm of mysticism in the Beyonder world. He flipped through the next 4 pages and it was disappointed to realize that they were no longer related to Mr. Door. His ability as a clown allowed him to conceal his emotions well. And coupled with a gray fog's obstruction, and even Audrey, who was secretly observing him, didn't notice anything amiss. He gathered his chaotic thoughts and started reading the 3rd page of the diary. Oh my god, there's more. 10th of September. I've endured it for a long time, but I still can't help but complain a little. I must have had fucking shit for brains to choose the saving pathway, right? He's like, I messed up. I'm not. No, I don't trust them. Like, and then they're like, oh, we can only tell you when, like, you've reached, like, demigod status, right? Or, like, when you've reached a high sequence pathway and up. Of course, this has indeed allowed me to develop my greatest advantage, allowing the church to attach great importance to me. But the problem is that the first few sequences lack any Beyonder powers needed for combat. I can only make do by relying on mystical items and rely way too much on external items. I got it. Somehow he's going with like a high sequence pathway. He's going to see into the future and he's going to know that Klein or Sherlock is reading his diary pages. So watch there be an entry towards the end, like, and now I leave this message towards Mr. Fool, who is reading my pages in the future. With your combat abilities and my expertise, we can find a way to return back to the real world. I already know that's gonna happen. I already know something like that's gonna happen. This is gonna be so sick when that happens. Of course, this has indeed allowed me to develop my greatest advantage, allowing the church to attach great importance to me, but the problem is that the first few sequences lack any Beyonder powers needed for combat. I can only make do by relying on mystical items and rely way too much on external items. For example, Sequence 9 Savants only has extraordinary abilities in the memory, learning, and practical skills. For example, Sequence 8 Archaeologist gains a strong physique and corresponding ancient knowledge, and they can only barely apply some ritualistic magic. For example, Sequence 9 Appraiser, whose ability is to quickly identify mystical objects, allowing them to avoid hidden dangers to the greatest extent. For example, Sequence 6 Artisan, I read that wrong. Cook, we're cooking, man is cooking. You know what's cooking. He's gonna use all his brain, like, so like he's all brains and no bronze, right? What's the saying? It's like all, like, you know what I mean. Like, his pathway is only giving him like intellectual abilities, and the clown pathway for Klein is gonna give him like physical combat abilities. And then somehow they're going to put both together and they're going to like bring it in together. Bro is cooking something exotic. Man, Gordon Ramsay would be proud. Comparatively, Sequence 7 Warlock, I skipped a line. I did not lose my place. Who can produce, for example, Sequence 6 Artisan, who can produce machinery wonders but not very powerful beyond our objects. Apart from that, one standard and ritualistic magic will be enhanced. It is no wonder its modern name is Machinery Specialist. That's what Melissa is going to go down. Lord Badoon, Izagiki, look at the Lord Discord. I got you. Let's look at it. Comparatively speaking, the Sequence 7 Warlock and Sequence 6 Scrolls Professor of the Mystery Power Pathway are sufficiently tempting. It would be great if only the church had the complete sequence and the hidden stage doesn't exist. However, I finally received some good news. After I advance again, I'll gain beyonder powers, combat powers that I can call my own. Sequence 5 Astromancer? So that's a new pathway name. Its modern name scares me a little. It's actually called Astronomer. Am I going to end up as an all-powerful mad scientist? Heavens have mercy on me. I was only a second-tier student at the college entrance exam. It had to be said that Emperor Roselle had a strange talent for making jokes. Even the recently dispirited Klein couldn't help but twitch his mouth, wishing to light a candle for the senior. For the senior? Study hard and improve by the day is indeed a wise saying. He lampooned and remembered the unique trait of the Church of the God of Steam and Machinery. They lacked beyond powers when it came to combat, but they were good at making and using items. After flipping to the third page of the diary, Klein continued reading. 2nd of June, the kingdom has created chaos again and again, instigating wars without being able to completely destroy the Phasic Empire. The Lowen Kingdom and the Phaeton Potter Kingdom. As such, the kingdom had no choice but to shoulder huge debts, and its economy is on the verge of collapse. From my observations, the people, merchants, and soldiers are very dissatisfied. The riots are just lacking a spark. This is my chance. But I have to be very careful. The Sauron family has witnessed the history of the 4th epoch and is an ancient family with a high possibility of having high sequence beyonders. I need the support of the church as well as a gain of tacit agreement with the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun. I can't appear immediately. First, I'll let the rebels destroy order before I end it as a protector. Consul Roselle Gustav. I like that name. I don't know, I like that name very much. Oh my god, Mysterious Fool, that was so quick. Yeah, let's update the chapter. Chapter 218 is called Free General Knowledge. Okay, this sounds exciting. Yeah, dude, she giving clutch, dude. Chapter 218 is called Free General Knowledge. June 3rd, after discussing with Edwards and the others, I gave up on the idea of reaching a tacit understanding with the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun. This might very well reveal my true intentions, making the Sauron family and the ancient nobles who support them aware of them and advance to carry out a direct approach. That would make matters extremely difficult and dangerous. It's a pity that Grim died in the Sea of Fog. He was the smartest among us. Descend into chaos, descend. Only with everything in chaos will I get the chance to fish in troubled waters. Only when the Sauron family is incapable of handling the situation will the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun reluctantly acknowledge me. Here, so let me reread this part. Yeah, I know. I did stop at perhaps, right? Alright. Chapter 218 is called Free General Knowledge. June 3rd, after discussing with Edwards and the others, I gave up the idea of reaching a tactical understanding with the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun. This might very well reveal my true intentions, making the Sauron family and the ancient nobles who support them aware of them in advance and carry out a direct approach. That would make matters extremely difficult and dangerous. It's a pity that Grim died in the sea. He wasn't the smartest among us. Descend into chaos, descend. Only with everything in chaos will I get the chance to fish in troubled waters. Only when the Sauron family is incapable of handling the situation will the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun reluctantly acknowledge me. Perhaps I should give some help to those rebels, but how should I conceal myself so that no one would notice? June 4th, Zaratul from the Secret Order came to visit me in incognito very suddenly. I assume he might be Mr. Z. Oh, is music too loud? I got you guys. Too loud? I got you. I got you. June 4th, Zaratul from the Secret Order came to visit me in incognito very suddenly. And then Klein was just feeling intrigued over the reason why Zaratul, leader of the Secret Order, would seek Roselle on the eve of the rebellion and coup defeat when he realized that the 2 subsequent pages had nothing to do with it. This made him feel a sense of responsible anger. Although the 3 diary pages didn't provide very detailed descriptions with rather straightforward accounts of Roselle, Klein could still feel the famous turmoil and the intus that happened in 1173, more than 100 years ago. The outcome was clearly recorded in history textbooks as a colonial republic quashed a rebellion and enacted the political changes. The Intis kingdom was transformed into a republic with him acting as a self-appointed consul. In the following 19 years, he reformed the penal code, encouraged inventions, and protected the Industrial Revolution. He greatly increased the country's strength and forgot wars both north and south, making the Limburg, Mason, Cigar, and other countries protectorates under the Intis Republic. He also made the 3 mighty countries of the northern continent and Fasek Empire, the Loan Kingdom and the Fenapotter Kingdom, bow their heads. At the end of the 1192, almost 20 years after his appointment as a consul, Roselle converted the Republic into the Empire, declaring himself Caesar. Less than 6 years later, he perished in the White Maple Palace, ending in the 5th epoch's most legendary pieces of history to date. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that there were more to Roselle's deaths than what appeared on the surface. It was just like how the famous historical events definitely had power struggles amongst Beyonders behind it, and that a Beyonder faction had leveled the situation unlike the description in the textbooks. As expected, one of these so-called 4 horsemen of the apocalypse Scrim died in the Sea of Fog. In a previous diary page, Roselle had written that there was something wrong with the horsemen. It seems to have something to do with the tiny island where they discovered many extraordinary beings. Not only was it a fortunate encounter, but it was also a dangerous one. Klein thought of a previous entry and turned to the 5th page feeling emotional. The contents of this page are a little value. The consistent Roselle's comments after drinking an 1128 are mere red wine. Is this 700-year-old wine? Roselle Napoleon art? Yeah, this is his Napoleon art. That's what I'm thinking, dude. He's drinking wine from like 700 years ago. Well, technically for his time, it would have been 500 years ago. Our mere red wine, the disillusion of the finding of the woman who had gained his adoration and his youth to be aged out of shape, as well as a degenerate summary of a center period when he was addicted to playing cards. The 6th page was about the same as the first one, with accounts of his daily life. However, the last one made Klein's eyes light up. 8th of April, I have to send someone to investigate the secret order to get more information. I can't repeat my passiveness from before. I can't let Zaratul lead me by the nose anymore. So did you discover anything, Comrade Roselle? Since Klein couldn't find the rest of the information, he could only force himself to calm down and wait for the next gathering when the hangman would hand over another 6 pages. He knew that an investigation from over 100 years ago was unlikely to help him find any clues related to the Secret Order Association. After all, over such a long period of time, other than the special ones, many of the high sequence Beyonders would have already died of an old age, not to mention the middle or low level members. However, Klein believed that this would help him obtain inspiration and grasp the precise identity and activity pattern that the Secret Order often used. Putting down the 6 diary pages, Klein tapped his right index finger on the edge of the long bronze table, slowly moving his gaze from Miss Justice to the hangman, and then to the sun. Right in the diary just now, there was a line Emperor Roselle described. God who created all the deities, an omnipotent and omniscient God. This is very similar to the customs of the City of Silver. Where did he hear this from? Could it be from the most ancient and secret organizations which controls the world from behind the scenes? This organization was established before the Forsaken Land of the Gods was first. This organization was established before the Forsaken Lands of the Gods was forsaken. Oh my god, bro. This isn't low-key lore, Romero. This is like big lore. This is big, like, key point lore. Right? Damn. 500 years, that's like something right now. That's like someone right now having wine from Columbus's ship or something. Literally, dude. Like, it's that old, bro? Suddenly Klein had a new idea. He said with a low and gentle smile. Roselle mentioned some hidden history in his diary and mentioned some simple general knowledge. The latter reminded me of something that I don't recall informing you all. Audrey suddenly fell into a trance. She immediately turned her body around and looked at the very top of the ancient long table in pleasant surprise. Mr. Fool was taking the initiative to mention the contents of Rizzo's diaries. What would it say? She was so excited and thrilled that she completely forgot that she was a spectator. Compared to her, the hangman Oliver was much more composed. However, the subconscious straightening of his back heartlessly betrayed him. Only the son, Derek, had always believed that the items of interest to Mr. Fool contained many mysteries, but he didn't know anything about Emperor Rizzo, and he didn't know what this name represented on the northern continent. Thus, he just found it difficult to hide his curiosity and didn't reveal any unusual behaviors. Mr. Fool, the Emperor Rizzo mentioned some general knowledge. I'm willing to pay for this information, Audrey couldn't help but say. However, I want it to be communicated to me privately, she added suddenly in her heart. Klein chuckled and said, there's no need, this is very simple general knowledge. After reading this part of the diary and the summoner of the Tarot Club, I feel it's necessary to let all of you know this. Of course, I'm very certain that some of you are already aware of this. He was mainly referring to the sun. The city of Silver had a history of 2,000 or 3,000 years, so it was impossible for them to not discover the law of the beyonder characteristics indescribability. Moreover, they were in a relatively extreme environment. Even if the surrounding areas had no lack of monsters and darkness, there would still be times when they failed to obtain the corresponding materials in order to pass on their heritage, in order for their city to continue on. Using the beyonder characteristics of the remaining of the predecessors to create a potion was particularly unacceptable. To them, this was perhaps a sacred and glorious ceremony. Of course, Klein could see from a previous exchange that the hangman knew nothing. It's a pity that Miss Justice cannot always be made to pay in gold pounds and transfer the money to my adorers. My adorer can't appear any less impressive. I mustn't destroy the image of the powerful man that Mr. Zik has created. Yes, I'll give it a try when I have the chance. After all, no matter how powerful a being is, they'll have subordinates that run errands. For instance, the Evernight Goddess Sleepless. No one would ever suspect that Evernight Goddess isn't truly a deity just because the low-level Nighthawks are weak. Klein sighed silently. Thank you very much, Mr. Fool. You are just too generous, Audrey replied in joy. She was originally feeling 3 seconds of regret for the coarse action of using cash to purchase the information. Klein stopped rapping the table and described with a calm voice. The first piece of general knowledge, law of beyonder characteristics indescribability. The characteristics of a beyonder is never destroyed or reduced. It only passed from one character to the next. What? Audrey is like their one and only benefactor as of right now. Easy, you don't see the tiny small bits that only reread can show? Wait, what? What was that, Romero? No, I don't. Wait, I don't see what you're talking about. No, I don't think I saw it. The characteristics of a beyonder is never destroyed or reduced. It's only passed from one character to the next. Without realizing it, I used Captain's Toad. Klein's lips subconsciously curled upwards. It cannot be destroyed or reduced. It just transfers from one character to another. Audrey ruminated over Mr. Fool's description, feeling that there was too much meaning in that simple sentence. Her emerald green eyes turned, and when she saw that neither the hangman nor the sun showed any signs of surprise or contemplation, she immediately understood that these two members of the Tarot Club had long known of this law. Only I didn't know. She thought, feeling somewhat aggrieved? I read that wrong? No. Beyond their characteristics are destroyed? What are they talking about? Are they talking about like how when they died, they consume their remains for the potions? Is that what they're talking about? When they say like beyond their characteristics is destroyed, like no beyond their characteristics are, wait, no, oh, characteristics, no beyond their characters are destroyed, right? Just transferred from, I cannot read today, I'm so sorry. Just transferred from one container to another. Recall when the clown died, an orb-like thing came out. That's the characteristics. Oh! Okay, like a piece of them remains even after death, right? And then that would be like a main ingredient, right? So even if they don't have main ingredients for whatever like subsequent potion is next, they use their characteristics. That's what that, because I remember, wasn't that what was vaguely talked about, right? Wait, I lost my place. That's count 2. It cannot be destroyed or reduced. It just transfers from one carrier to another. Audrey ruminated over Mr. Fool's description, feeling that there was too much meaning in that simple sentence. Her emerald green eyes turned, and when she saw that neither the hangman nor the sun showed any signs of surprise or contemplation, she immediately understood that these two members of the Tarot Club had long known of this law. Only I didn't know, she thought, feeling somewhat aggrieved, but she quickly began to praise Mr. Fool for her kindness. At this point, Klein added, after a rampager dies, They will leave behind an item of a Beyonder characteristics. It could be the main ingredient, or it could be a mystical artifact that requires sealing. An ordinary Beyonder's dev results in similar results. However, the item left behind will be equivalent to the corresponding potion without the supplementary ingredients. Ah, okay. Of course, the item alone will contain Beyonder's powers. They can only be used as a half mystical object. I'm calling it right now. So they added. Okay, I'm getting it. The Badoon is strong today. It is super strong today. I know. I apologize. I apologize. Now Beyonder characters is destroyed. Just transfer from one container to another. Recall when the clown died. These are not possible to be destroyed, much like energy that are ever present and can only be changed or transferred. Just in different form, the Badoon is strong this way. You know how they can make another sequence potion from the remains of Beyonder from the sequence. So the power of a sequence doesn't disappear, it just remains and goes from one thing to another. So they are a limited number of Beyonder characteristics. Hey, are you not streaming on weekdays? Yeah, no, we are. We're back to weekday streams. I know, I got you, Kevin. Conservation of energy, mass type. Yeah, it is. It's like what was like. You can neither you can't. I lied. I don't know my physics. I was like, you can neither create nor destroy energy. You can only transfer. I don't remember my physics. I don't remember physics. But I was trying to say that. I already know in a future volume, Klein is somehow gonna have to use old Neil's like the crimson red eyes, right? Because I think that was what was remained. Like when he died, he left behind like 2 pairs of eyes, right? Hey, made it to stream. Yo, what's up, dude? Thank you for joining, Nazir. Happy New Year's. Happy New Year's, guys. At this point, I read this paragraph. They can be used as a half mystical object. The plain and indifferent worlds instantly echoed in Audrey's mind, layers stacked upon layers, and bit by bit, it eventually reached a crescendo. Audrey thought of cannibalism and the question, would a sequence pathway be served if the source of the Beyonder material ceased to exist? She asked if the hangman had previously came to mind. No, she knew the answer, but she would have rather not heard it. She felt like she was having a nightmare. Nothing gained, nothing lost, all transformed. Sealed artifacts are just Beyonder characteristics fused with items. Yeah, right? Because that's how it was for the Antigonus family notebook. When Ray Bieber died, he left behind the notebook again, right? Because he digested it, right? Yeah, Happy New Year's, guys. Yeah, Happy New Year's Eve and Happy New Year's. For some people, it's already the New Year's. How can it be so cruel? Why is it so dark? Audrey had previously seen some bad situations that involved Beyonders, but those situations were only caused by a person's own perverse and evil nature. For example, Mr. A or Quillingus, they didn't affect her yearning and love for mysticism and the Beyonders world. However, this time she discovered that the mystical world was filled with grayness and darkness. Wake up, Audrey. You can't be naive. Consider that the cruelty and darkness described by Mr. Fool are predictable. Since he had chosen this path, he had to bravely walk down it. Audrey consoled herself and eased her mood a little. She saw that the hangman and the sun were making only habitual movements and appeared to understand what had just been said. Huh, Mr. Hanged man is terrible. He even wanted to use this information in exchange as an exchange previously. This information is indeed worth a lot and is quite important, but it's only a simple piece of general knowledge to us and Mr. Fool. Audrey suddenly wanted to laugh a little. Her mood began to improve, and she slowly pushed all the extreme examples that she had just thought of aside. Klein wasn't surprised by the 3 members' reaction. He continued in a calm tone. The second piece of general knowledge, law of similar sequence beyond her characteristics conservation. Law of similar sequence beyond her characteristics conservation. The hangman slightly changed his sitting posture. He felt that he understood something, but he was unable to fully understand what this law represented and what it consisted of. Just as in the sun shared the same feelings as he did, they were unable to directly understand the true meaning behind this law. Why similar sequence? Oliver couldn't help asking. Klein smiled and replied, what do you wish to pay for that answer? One of the ideas he had was the general knowledge was free, but any explanation required a fee. This both matched his status and didn't waste the information. Free things cost the most. Okay. Okay. No, you're not late, Hollow. Welcome, dude. We just started like 2 minutes ago. All right, chapter 213 is called Explanation. If the Fool had simply mentioned that there were some simple general knowledge contained in Roselle's diary, the hangman Olger wouldn't necessarily be determined to pay the price for the answer. Partly because the description of It being simple killed his curiosity. Another aspect stemmed from his constant wariness against making trades with the fool, as it reminded him of the examples when deals were made with evil gods and devils. But now that he knew the so-called contents of simple general knowledge, his interest was piqued. Yet he was unable to understand parts of the description, much less gain any actual or deep grasp of the concept. Therefore, he couldn't hold back his urges to ask in absolute reverence. Mr. Fool, what kind of payment do you want? Yes, Justice Audrey nodded her head nearly indiscriminately, but very frequently indicating that this was something she wanted to ask as well. Although the son Derek remained silent and didn't make any additional body gestures, the look he gave to the fool explained everything. Klein, who was waiting for such a response, smiled and said, information regarding the secret order. The secret order, the hangman Alger muttered to himself. The secret order, the hangman Alger muttered to himself. He wasn't unfamiliar with this term. Did the update chapter tell it? Yes, we did. The secret order, the hangman Alger muttered to himself. He wasn't unfamiliar with the term. He once received payments and explaining to Miss Justice about the many secret organizations, including the secret order. Audrey and Derek both frowned subconsciously. The former's only understood of the secret order was limited to what the hangman had described, and the latter had never even heard of such an organization. Klein had long anticipated what the son would feel, but he wasn't surprised. According to his conjecture, the area where the city of Silver was located should have been a part of the third epoch after the appearance of the first blasphemy state and before the appearance of the second blasphemy state. It wasn't even possible that it was the direct catalyst of the manifestation of the cataclysm. So much lore, bro. The Zaratul family had only stepped onto the stage of the history of the fourth epoch, and a secret order was created in the latter half of the fourth epoch. There was no way both entities could have existed in the same period. It would surprise Klein if the son were to know about the secret order. He would then have to overturn some of his speculations, reconstruct his knowledge of the city of Silver, the forsaken land of the gods, and the Zaratul family. After nearly 20 seconds of silence, Olger looked at the fool in the gray fog, deliberated his words, and said, I will accept this request and help you gather information regarding the secret order. Can you make payment in advance? It wasn't surprising that the suspected deity was interested in an ancient secret organization, therefore Olger wasn't puzzled about it. More importantly, after many gatherings, he had a guess in his mind, which was that Mr. Fool's state was wasn't perfect, that he might be in a predicament, that all his attempts and his actions of his doors in northern and southern continents were to help him break free from his confines. Oh, and the anime trailer, right? You know how the true creator was like, it looked like he was shackled, right? This might even be related to the huge secret of why the seven deities no longer descend upon the real world after the fourth epoch. A thought flashed through Olger's mind, and he shuddered as he felt himself entering the realm of gods. Upon hearing the hangman's request, Klein leaned back in his chair and nodded. No problem. If the information you have collected exceeded the value of the answer, I will provide you with further compensation. As for the circumstances in which the value of the answer was lacking, it is naturally up to the esteemed Mr. Fool to decide. If he has the ability to make any additional payment, so it be in front. If not, forget it, Klein silently added. Just as Audrey's eyes lit up all of a sudden, she raised her hand and said, I want to partake in this deal. Klein laughed and replied, sure. Frankly speaking, his main target was Miss Justice because she was a local of Backland, and she had mixed herself into several Beyonder circles. Her access to information of the Land of Hope far exceeded his, considering it was his first time in the capital. She was also more informed than the hangman, who was out of the sea at sea most of the time. According to the earlier revelation he received from his divination, Klein believed that the clues related to the secret order would appear in the Backland and not anywhere else. The son Derek listened quietly. After some thought, said, I'm willing to use payment I reserved in exchange for the answer. In the previous three-way deal, he then traded the sequence 8 telepathist formula for sequence 9 bard. Klein had promised to compensate him, and his choice at the time has been saved up and prepared for the subsequent potion formulas and main ingredients. Klein nodded in his head and gave explanation that he had long prepared. Okay. The so-called similar sequence refers to the high sequence beyonders and exchangeable with other pathways. Let me give you an example. The Death's pathway sequence 5 gatekeeper can only be advanced normally, but one can also choose the giant pathway, which the gatekeeper's pathway sequence for Demon Hunter. This won't lead to the danger of losing control, nor will it accumulate madness. It's different from taking the wrong potion. Of course, if it's not a similar sequence, a semi-deranged state is the best result. Exchangeable, Audrey blurted out, surprised and delighted. She wasn't surprised that the sequence pathways weren't completely fixed, that they didn't need to follow the original path all the way. The price of switching was in being semi-deranged and never to advance again. With the 22 divine pathways, there were special circumstances and sequences which were similar. And what delighted her was that she had another chance to choose again in the future. It was just like being able to select something that caught her interest in Philip's department store. It's a wonderful experience. And let me find my volume because it's a smidge low. What a wonderful experience. It's a wonderful experience. So that's how it is. Olger suddenly muttered to himself, suddenly feeling that he had understood several things at once, and he then resolved many of the doubts accumulated in the past experiences. This information is way too valuable. As expected of Mr. Fool, so-called simple general knowledge is enough to shock me and almost of low sequence beyonders and benefit them immensely. He sighed inwardly. Derek, the son, was a little disappointed because he had no intention of changing sequences. He wanted to be the sun that lit up the darkness and dispelled the curse. I respect that. However, he quickly recalled an incident that happened in the City of Silver. The former chief, a powerhouse who was the greatest possibility of the breaking past the limitations of Demon Hunter, had built a mausoleum. Sequence 4, right? Demon Hunter was 4. Had built a mausoleum for himself and went deep inside it, making it his home. Afterwards, he appeared less and less until the main door of the mausoleum could no longer be open. Another door reference? Back then, the citizens of the City of Silver all believed that a problem had arisen during the chief's advancement and that he had gone mad to the point of being close to losing control. He was believed to have finished him off. Now, combined with the description of the fool, the son suddenly thought of another possibility. That chief might have been attempting to advance in sequence through a similar pathway. In one of his explorations deep into the darkness, he had acquainted the corresponding formula for the death pathway, and the mausoleum might have been a special requirement, but in the end, because if you're on the death pathway, you need a mausoleum. Now, combined with the description from Mr. Fool, the son suddenly thought of another possibility. That chief might have been attempting to advance in sequence through a similar pathway. In one of his explorations deep into the darkness, he had acquired the corresponding formula for the death pathway, and the mausoleum might have been a special requirement. But in the end, he still failed. But why didn't he turn into a monster? What did he encounter in that dark mausoleum? The City of Silver doesn't have the subsequent sequence potion formulas after Demon Hunter. As these thoughts crossed his mind, Derek was suddenly jolted back to his senses by Miss Jess's reserved voice. Mr. Fool, may I ask what other pathways are exchangeable with the spectator sequence pathway? Sequence 4 Demon Hunter sounds pretty good. That's very suitable for me, very suitable for Justice. Audrey admire the first high sequence name that she knew. I want to know too. Klein was tempted to answer Miss Justice's question in such a manner. Before he could say anything, Audrey added in a flattering tone, I can pay for the answer to this question. How many gold pounds do you think is enough? I believe that your door will need a certain amount of funds for their activities. Having said that, she recalled how Mr. Fool's door had easily finished Pirate Admiral Quillingus, who possessed creeping hunger. Clearly, he was a high sequence beyonder. So she nearly said, I apologize, Mr. Fool, treated as though I never said anything. However, since she had already asked, she couldn't back down. Come on, Audrey, perhaps the fool has a weaker door. Audrey quietly bit at her lips, silently encouraging herself. Gold pounds? Klein thought about it seriously and said, well, make the transaction after enough information of the secret order is gathered. As he spoke, he recalled his informant, the psychology alchemist Daxter Gudrian. Captain and I sigh. Daxter's identity as informant can no longer be verified. I wonder if it's a tragedy or a comedy. It's a pity that I can no longer contact him anymore. Otherwise, it would be the most convenient way to obtain information regarding the spectator pathway from him. Klein smirked. All right, Audrey answered happily. The conversation between the two, the hangman, who was about to ask a similar question, shut his mouth. He left it until he had gathered enough information on the secret order. After a brief silence, Audrey turned her head to look at Mr. Fool and raised her hand very slightly. After receiving a nod of confirmation, she turned to the member opposite her and asked with a sense of anticipation, Mr. Hangman, my tip allowed you to finish Rear Admiral Hurricane. Have you prepared the complete pituitary gland of the mature rainbow salamander? That's one of the reasons why I returned to the sea. Oliver nodded gently and said, I've gotten the beyonder material you wanted, but how should I give it to you? How should it be given to me? Audrey froze for a moment as she lost herself in thought. It's impossible to just give my address, nor can I go through Shio and force that will reveal the fact that I'm a beyonder, huh? It's not impossible. Emperor Rizal once said that when we should choose the lesser of the two evils. Oh, that's the chapter I'm on. Or something like that, right? At that moment, Klein's heart stirred. He lightly tapped the edge of the long table and smiled. Miss, sir, are you willing to cooperate with me in making an attempt regarding this matter? Yes, of course. All right, new chapter. All right, chapter 220 is called Klein's Sacrificial Trial. What? Attempt. Justice was instantly thrilled as she nodded, her acting reserved and elegant. I'm very willing to cooperate. As a spectator, she clearly remembered that Mr. Fool had only used the word attempt on two things. The first time involved bringing her and the hangman into the mysterious space, and the second time was when they were given an honorary name so that they could attempt to make a prayer. And the outcome was sufficiently successful, revealing his true nature. What would it be this time? It really... Oh, so she's like, oh, they're gonna do... Digest? Yeah, we gotta digest like the 60 plus chapters I haven't done notes on. Oh my god, I can't even speak. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Yeah, I'm still like 60 plus chapters behind on notes. So I gotta catch up. I know, I gotta catch up on the notes. I'm very willing to cooperate, and I read this. I already read this paragraph. What would it be this time? It really is something to look forward to. Audrey restrained her impatience and tried her best to behave as a qualified spectator. Attempt. Olger suddenly tensed up, viewing the fool's proposal with utmost awareness. What does he want to do? What is his true purpose? Is this good or bad for me? One by one, thoughts popped up into his mind. The rapidly rotting appearance of rear Admiral Hurricane Quilligus surfaced in Olger's mind. Finally, he lowered his head and respectfully replied, "Your wish is my wish." Beside him, Theric looked at Hangman and then Justice and wondered why they were so sensitive to this so-called attempt. Klein lightly tapped his fingers on the edge of the long bronze table and smiled. This attempt will make your transaction easier and safer, and it will definitely be sufficiently confidential. He turned his head to the side and looked at the hangman. He said with a moderate pace, "Do you remember the sacrificial ritual described by the sun?" Klein had deliberately mentioned it and showed how open he was. It made it difficult for the members of the Terror Club to imagine that the sacrificial ceremony he was about to provide had actually first been obtained from the sun, that he had gone through all the time and effort back then to trick the sun out of a template sacrificial ritual. "I remember I do come into contact with such things usually," Olger answered truthfully, but his heart was throbbing. Since the Orthodox gods rarely respond to similar rituals, the word sacrifice had often been equated to an evil gods and devils in the 5th epoch. Thinking about how this could lead to a terrifying outcome, the hangman felt as if he was walking on the edge of the abyss. If he wasn't careful, he would fall in, only to be eroded and devoured. Klein followed his plans and didn't provide further explanations. He nodded slightly and said, "My idea is for you to sacrifice the Beyonder material to me through the ritual, and I'll bestow them to Miss Justice. A transaction like this would be beneficial for both of you. That can be done." Audrey was instantly dumbfounded. She felt that this exceeded the limits of her imagination. But she very quickly came to her senses and understood the advantages of this method and the true nature of a deity hidden behind this simple act. "Mr. Fool is great. As expected of our Terror Club, will be different from other secret organizations. We'll use this method of deities to exchange for material goods and ingredients." Audrey almost said praise the lady in her mind out of habit, but in the end she said praise Mr. Fool instead. Oh, that's funny. Olger turned even warier as he entered a state of calm thoughts. "Honorable Mr. Fool, what do I need to do?" He tried to figure out the true purpose of the Fool from the process of the sacrificial ritual. Klein lightly pressed his right hand and said, "Like I said, this is only an attempt. It might not succeed, so it will need your cooperation. First of all, prepare an altar. There's no need to make it too complicated. It can be very simple and crude. The only requirement is to engrave or draw this symbol." As he spoke, a screen of light appeared in front of him. On it was a symbol of the hidden pupilless eye. Oh, his logo, or his symbol, right? His emblem. And the mysterious symbol of the partial controlled lines, the same symbols of the back of the Fool's chair. After previous experiments without using materials with spirituality, Klein was certain that the sacrificial ceremony he designed could create an illusionary gate above the gray fog, similar to the door of the summoning. However, his strength alone couldn't construct a stable channel, and he could only use the uniqueness of the mysterious space above the gray fog to complete the sacrifice. Therefore, he was 90% confident the ceremony would be successful. The only problem was if an ordinary passageway could be constructed using ordinary materials that contained spirituality, or did it need to be the Beyonder materials as well as a sufficient number of them? I'll let Miss Justice and Mr. Hangman bear the cost of this experiment. In any case, they knew from the very beginning that the Terror Club was a product of an attempt. It can be foreseen that there would be other attempts subsequently and failures inevitable. Even deities are no exception. Klein decided to transfer the costs. As a hangman, Justice and the Sun were attempting to memorize a symbol, Klein chuckled. If you forget, you can pray to me, and then you can remember. All right, Audrey answered happily. With Mr. Full, rituals aren't tedious and troublesome, she thought happily. The hangman nodded in response as Klein continued the description. Secondly, follow the normal procedure, but there's no need to burn any more additional herbs or apply holy oils. There's no restriction on time. Just chanting my name is enough. Remember, use ancient Hermes or Jotun to recite this piece of prayer. Your devoted servant prayers for your attention. I pray for you take his offerings. I pray for you to open the gates to your kingdom. After you finish chanting, combine the materials that contain spirituality with the natural power created by the incantation and await my response. If you don't succeed in this step, change from materials containing spirituality to Beyonder materials and try again from the beginning. After listening quietly to the procedure, Oliver felt that his previous guess was very likely to be true. The fool was in a predicament. He offered alluring attempts, making attempts one step at a time, and planned to use himself. Justice and the Sun to slowly break free from the restrictions. In the end, he might even descend into the real world. Shut up. Oh, Olger. He's like, oh shit, he's trying to come to the real world. This was also the true reason why he had initially pulled people into this mysterious space, agreeing to the establishment of the Terror Club. Even without this previous speculation, shut up. I really hope they're not trying to set up as like, Olger is like, oh, I have to kill the fool when he comes to the real world. Klein's brand logo, yeah, it's trademark. You can't use his logo like that, dude. That's funny. This was the true reason why he had initially pulled people into the mysterious space, agreeing to the establishment of the Terror Club. Even without, let me reread this part again. Even without the previous speculation, Olger believed that he would have come to the same conclusion after hearing of the experimental procedures required after the sacrificial ritual and comparing it to the fool's previous attempts. The only thing that stumbled him was the possession of a powerful adorer. Therefore, there was no need for him to use himself. Just as in the Sun, his adorer could make similar attempts. There might be secrets I don't know about yet. His attempts need to be sufficiently secretive, and perhaps his adorer is being watched by certain existences. Olger began connecting the dots. There's literally no dots to connect, Olger. After Klein finished describing the ritual, he asked in a low but gentle voice, the sacrificial ritual needs to be a specific time. Mr. Hangman, when do you plan on making the attempt? This was different from responding to requests which could have a delayed response. The stable passage created by the sacrificial ritual could only exist for a very short period of time, so Klein had to wait above the gray fog ahead of time. The rainbow salamander pituitary gland is the only Beyonder material I have with me for the time being. As for materials with spirituality, I do have quite a lot, Mr. Full. Once the gathering ends, I'll immediately attempt the first scenario. If it fails, I'll seek out other Beyonder materials. Once I obtain anything, I'll inform you by praying to confirm a time. Oliver said as he couldn't help but turn his gaze towards Miss Justice. As a spectator, Audrey instantly understood what he meant. She answered without the slightest hesitation. If any additional Beyonder materials are required, I'll compensate you afterwards. While I can't guarantee the specific type of material you would want, as expected of a wealthy Miss Justice, the fool Klein couldn't help but sigh before chuckling. We have come to an agreement. He looked at the Justice and said, after some thought, once Mr. Hangman's attempt succeeds, I'll inform the bestowment of ceremony. Alright, Audrey was entirely confident with Mr. Fool's abilities. After answering the question, a sudden thought struck her as she realized that the exchange of money could also be done through this method. Oh. Of course, this was only if the attempt was successful. I wonder if items without any spirituality would work or not. I'll ask Mr. Full again after the attempt is successful. Audrey's lips curled as she thought of a beautiful future. With the sacrifice of bestowment topic coming to an end, she deliberated for a few seconds before saying, Mr. Full, I found 2 ladies suitable for our Terror Club. They're both Beyonders and have their own circle and resources in Backland. They're also able to keep a secret and have a decent... Shut up! Are Forge and Shield going to join? Are you willing to let them join the gathering? Does Justice want to strengthen her faction with the Terror Club? This was the most instinctual thought that Olger had. Derek was very interested in the matter as he looked sideways to Mr. Full, waiting for his answer in anticipation. Klein appeared to be in a bit of a dilemma. Previously, he had imagined the members of the Terror Club wouldn't know each other, and they would then develop their own subordinates, forming a relatively tight and secretive organization. This way, even if a certain member was exposed, captured, or had their spirit channeled, it wouldn't have much of an impact on Terror Club. But Miss Jess's description just happened to hit his weak spot. He was hoping to find clues regarding the secret order in Lenavus by acquainting himself with Beyonders with different circles and resources in Backland. If it's done through justice, the person involved would eventually hold back. However, I'm not sure if it's possible to pull them above the Grey Fox simply by reciting my name. In order to maintain his image, Klein didn't think too much and instead procrastinated on it. He said calmly, "It will require a certain amount of examination. Miss Justice, use a clandestine method that wouldn't expose yourself to let them know of my name to garner interest in them." When Audrey saw that her proposal was about to be accepted, she immediately responded in excitement, "Yes, Mr. Full." After a few more exchanges, the gathering came to an end. The Sun, the Hangman, and Justice returned while Klein remained in the Grey Fog waiting for the sacrifice. Okay. Alright. The Terror Club at a higher level. Okay, I think we can do one more chapter, right? Alright, so this is going to be our last chapter. Chapter 221 is called The Terror Club at a Higher Level. The Blue Avenger was like a leaf on the surface of the undulating waves of the Sonia Sea. At times it was raised high and sometimes low from the eddings of the waves, but there was no sign of it being at a risk of capsizing. Oliver Wilson stood in the captain cabin, his back to the shows of the red and white wine as he subconsciously paced around. Finally, he gritted his teeth and returned to the mahogany desk with a grim expression. He removed the brass sextant, found a piece of paper and a pen, and leaned over to draw the complex, mysterious symbols given to him by the Fool. With a seafarer's memory, Augur quickly completed the first step of the sacrificial ritual. Then he opened a drawer and took out a candle. He set up the ritual according to the dualism principles and placed a candle above the symbol that was formed by the combination of pupilless eyes and the partial contorted lines. One candle was placed in the middle that represented the person making the sacrifice. Alright, so the last chapter of the day, we're gonna, I guess, redo this part. The Blue Avenger was like a leaf on the surface, undulating waves of the Sonia Sea. I know I lied. No, let's find her place. Because we stepped out for a bit. Oliver Wilson stood in the captain cabin and his back to the shelves of the red and white wine as he subconsciously paced around. Finally, he gritted his teeth and returned to the mahogany desk with a grim expression. He removed the brass sextant, found a piece of paper and a pen, and leaned over to draw the complex, mysterious symbol and give him by the Fool with a seafarer's memory. Oliver quickly completed the first step of the sacrificial ritual. Then he opened a drawer and took out a candle. He set up the ritual according to the dualism principles and placed a candle above the symbol that was formed by the combination of the pupilless eyes and partial contorted lines. One candle was placed in the middle that represented the person making the sacrifice. After cleaning up all the items on the table, Oliver condensed pure water into the palm of his hand and wiped the altar clean. He then used the silver of the dagger from the ceremony to create the ceiling wall that surrounded his desk. After doing all this, he used spirituality to light up the two candles and retreated a few steps under the dim light. Taking a deep breath, Oliver lowered his head and recited in ancient Hermes, "The Fool that doesn't belong to this era, you're the mysterious ruler above the great fog. You are the king of the yellow and black who wields good luck. You devoted servants prayers for your attention. I pray for you to take his offering. I pray for you to open the gates to your kingdom." The ancient incantation reverberated with the walls of spirituality stirring up spiraling gales as they swept forth in the force of nature. It was the oldest sacrificial language created by the Beyonders, and it contained many mysteries itself. However, it lacked sufficient protection from the user. Bearing with the pain that was akin to having knives slicing across his skin, Oliver took out a small dark brown glass bottle from his pocket, unscrewed the lid, and poured out a lot of sesame-shaped... I think I read that wrong. I feel like my music is too loud, right? It looks loud. Oliver took out a small dark brown glass bottle from his pocket, unscrewed the lid, and poured out a lot of sesame-shaped granules. These granules swirled with a metallic luster and exuded an indescribable sense of beauty. Oliver scattered these granules into the wind. Whoosh. The gale grew stronger, but was no longer tempestuous. It was dyed in two separate colors, silver and black. As it continued to collide and mix, the two differently colored winds were infused into the candle flame that symbolized the Fool burgeoning the tearing open an illusionary and ordinary-sized door. Its surface was carved with the same symbol that Olger had drawn. At this moment, Klein witnessed the appearance of the hazy door behind the high back chair. He couldn't feel the spirituality in the air that was rippling apart and stimulating the mysterious space. It seems to be working. Which one? I got you. I got your username. Oh, how to pronounce the word? Yeah, my bad. All right, it seems to be working. Klein suddenly had a premonition and immediately spread out his spirituality, infusing it with the upheavals and stimulation creak. Amidst the insubstantial sounds, the blurry door slowly opened, and the captain cabin, Olger suddenly saw the illusionary door formed out of the wind and light open. Behind it was a deep darkness formed from an innumerable number of almost invisible shadows. They were lustrous splendors encompassing massive amounts of knowledge. Situated above them, that was thick gray fog with the ancient palace overlooking the real world. Such a scene caused Olger involuntarily trembled. It was a deep fear and indescribable excitement. He hurriedly picked up the rainbow salamander's pituitary gland that had long prepared. He held it with both hands, and his head bowed. He raised the palm-sized object. Oh, I lost my place! I'm confirmed to be a true creator believer. I know when I lost my place. And the captain cabin. Oh, I lost my place. How do I lose my place this badly today? Oh my god. I'm mispronouncing every word and I'm losing my place every single chapter. Oh my goodness. We're going to awkwardly pause the video and find our place. I think I found my place. I'm going to reread this sentence. It seems to be working. Klein suddenly had a premonition and immediately spreading out his spirituality, infusing it with the upheavals and stimulation creak. Amidst the unsubstantial sounds, the blurry door slowly opened. In the captain cabin, Olger suddenly saw the illusionary door formed out of wind and light open. Behind it was a deep darkness formed from the innumerable number of almost invisible shadows. They were lustrous splendors encompassing massive amounts of knowledge. Situated above them was a thick gray fog of an ancient palace overlooking the real world. Such a scene caused Olger to involuntarily tremble. It was a deep fear and indescribable excitement. He hurriedly picked up the rainbow salamander, pituitary gland that he had long prepared. He held it with both hands, and with his head bowed, he raised the palm of his sized object, which was constantly changing in the color and had a soft feel of the ridges to the illusionary door. Olger's hands grew lighter under the sudden appearance of the instant disappearance of a suction force. He lost the slight tingling sensation that the rainbow salamander pituitary gland gave him. He didn't dare raise his head until he heard the deep voice of the fool echoing in your ears. You did well. It's my honor, Olger answered without any hesitation. He looked ahead again, only to see the illusionary door had disappeared. The gale had stopped, and the candle flames had returned to the original state. After the candles were extinguished according to the normal procedures, Olger sat down with a completed expression and said to himself silently. And you know what's crazy? If there's ever a traitor in the Terror Club, he can probably just go to the door and then fight Klein and the Fog World. Because I'm like, shit, dude, now he's like potentially going to have 21 other members. One could be a traitor, and when he's doing an exchange, he just goes in to try and kill him. I'm kind of scared for like the future volumes. You did well. It's my honor. Olger answered without hesitation. He looked ahead again, only to see the illusionary door had disappeared. The gale had stopped, and the candle flames had returned to the original state. After the candles were extinguished according to the normal procedures, Olger sat down with a complicated expression and said to himself silently, in the beginning, only people could be pulled into the world above the gray fog. After a while, responses could be made by listening to prayers. Now sacrifices and bestowments can be performed. Mr. Fool is freeing himself from his predicament one step at a time, and bit by bit will he enter the real world. This guess of conclusion frightened and worried Olger, but he also felt a little bit of delight. At least I'm a member of the Terror Club, one of the earliest members, he sighed. In the majestic palace above the gray fog, Klein was playing with the pituitary gland of the rainbow salamander. Various colors were reflected on his face as they constantly changed colors. A slight tingling sensation came from his palm, and a strong sense of accomplishment filled his heart, causing him to reveal a genuine smile, and the future of the Terror Club will become even more miraculous. After reflecting over the situation, Klein extended his spirituality and sent his will to the crimson star representing misjustice. After returning to her bedroom, Audrey, no longer able to sit quietly on the edge of her bed, she would restlessly flip through the books by her bed and from time to time scrutinize herself to the mirror with an unfocused gaze. She was looking forward to the completion of the hangman's sacrificial ritual, but she was also afraid the result would be a failure. Emperor Rizal had said that one must remain calm and collected when important matters arise. Audrey, come on, take a deep breath, or perhaps I should go tease the dog. However, Susie can talk and think. She's an entity with her own dignity. I can't just casually tease her. Audrey's mind wandered. Her hand unconsciously wrangling an ornament doll dressed in splendid clothing. After an unknown period of time, a thick gray fog suddenly appeared before her eyes, and in the depths of the fog, there was a lofty chair. So now it's like, oh, now I just can't like hug my dog because she can speak to me. He's like, now I have to give her more respect, right? Is that what she was saying? I lost my place. Oh my god, I lost my place again. She was looking forward to the completion of the hangman's sacrificial ritual, but she was also afraid of the results that would be a failure. Emperor Rizal had said that one must remain calm and collected when important matters arise. Audrey, come on, take a deep breath, or perhaps I should go tease the dog. However, Susie can't talk and think, so she's an entity with her. However, Susie can talk and think, so let me read this. So she's an entity with her own dignity. I can't just casually tease her. Audrey's mind wandered, her hand unconsciously wrangling an ornament doll dressed in a splendid clothing. After an unknown period of time, a thicker gray fog suddenly appeared before her eyes, and in the depths of the fog, there was a lofty chair. Sitting there, the fool appeared with a smile. Miss Justice, the attempt was successful. Have you prepared the materials that contain spirituality? That's great. As expected of Mr. Fool, Audrey forgot the hangman's role in the matter. She held back her excitement and said, yes, I always had such materials with me. Audrey had been the same even before she joined the Terror Club, but back then she didn't know which materials can be considered to contain spirituality. She had merely moved them from the family treasury in accordance with the various essential oil formulas she had gathered. Klein nodded silently and said, when do you plan on holding the ritual? This is based on the premise that there are no Beyonders around you. Does a Beyonder dog count? Audrey looked at the tightly shut door, feeling a small tug on her conscience. I can do it now, Klein tersely acknowledged. The ritual's process is the same as I described previously. All you need to do is change the prayer to your devoted servant prayers for your attention. I pray for you to open the gates to your kingdom. I pray for you to give me strength. In addition to this, use the dualism method. Audrey thought it over, fighting the urge to nod as she began preparing for the ritual. When the illusionary door opened and the scene, even more illusionary than the starry sky, appeared, Audrey felt intoxicated in both body and mind. This is the mysterious world I've always been pursuing. This is the kind of feeling I've always wanted. She praised Mr. Fool wholeheartedly. It's faith towards the goddess, but for the fool, it's worship. Audrey silently explained herself in her mind. Soon after that, she was stunned to see that there was something on the altar. It was a soft object with a lustrous color and was filled with ridges. The rainbow salamander peculiarly gunned. Audrey felt a surge of joy in her heart. Her eyes lit up as she had the urge to step forward and grab it. However, her customs of etiquette took hold of her as she sincerely praised Mr. Fool once again. After finishing the ritual, she impatiently walked forward and carefully examined the Beyonder material 5 times. Our Terror Club is a higher level than the other secret organizations. Audrey secretly felt smug. She then glanced wearily at the door as if afraid of Susie's sudden intrusion. She had to redouble her efforts and immediately concoct the potion to complete her advancement. A few minutes later, she held a bottle of liquid that contained constantly changing lusters that could shine to the bottom of everyone's hearts. She confidently drank the telepathist potion and successfully tied through the integration stage with the Beyonder characteristics achieving advancement. The view before her seemed to clear up significantly with a great increase in other aspects. Audrey, oh my god, I cannot read. Oh my, yeah, it worked, dude. Milos Ellie wins with prep time. Have you seen what she does to her toys? Dude, she's violent. She is violent, dude. As her sequence stabilized, she smiled and walked briskly to the door, letting in the golden retriever. She saw the obvious suspicion on Susie's face. It took far longer than usual. Susie didn't hide her thoughts. Audrey sat down on an ottoman and dryly laughed before changing the subject. Susie, tell me, how should I secretly inform Shio and Force about a particular matter without revealing myself? Get them interested. Before she finished her sentence, Audrey had begun to seriously ponder over the mission Mr. Fool had assigned her. Then she looked at Susie, and Susie looked back at her. The human and dog both fell into deep thought at the same moment. After completing his goal, Klein returned to reality, sleeping for a little more than an hour before hurrying out the door. He spent £1 to buy a pair of gold rimming glasses, wigs, and a variety of mustaches that can be torn off and stuck on with adhesives. They were disguises he would need later. What? Before dinner, he made a trip to Eastborough, the most crowded area in the most unsafe part of the city. He rented a 1-bedroom house and the rent of 4 solely 3 pence a week. He paid 2 weeks rent and a deposit, coming up to a total of 17 solely. Only then did Klein complete all of his early preparations. Eastborough also left a deep impression on him. Most of the streets here were the same as Tinken's lower streets, but the area that shared the traits was many times larger. The clothes of the residents here were old but decent. Many of them were dressed in shabby clothes with sallow skins and thin frames. It was as though they would turn into beasts at the moment due to their hunger or poverty. Therefore, gangs ran rampant in Eastborough. When he got back to Sherwood Borough, Klein felt as if he had entered heaven from hell. For the next 2 days, he experimented with using his spirituality to perform the rituals and create charms. He no longer prayed to the goddess and waited for the effects of his tiny advertisements to bear fruit. On Thursday morning, Klein finally heard the doorbell ring. Oh, because he's a PI, right? Because now he's a PI. Yeah, like the next chapter is called First Job. All right, I think that's a good stopping point. That's beautiful. I love it, dude. That's exciting. But I like it. We finished 221. And next stream, Klein has his first, his first job, right? As a PI. Oh, so he bought a wig and a mustache. So as he's a PI, he's using his disguise as he's a PI, right? That's kind of funny. You better catch up with your past chapters info because there's more spoilers in the future. I know, dude. I'm really behind on my notes. We're at 222, and the last chapter where I was going to do my notes was... Oh, the last chapter where I took notes was chapter 145. So I'm missing 55 chapters plus 22. Wow. I'm like 75 plus chapters behind on spoilers. No spoilers, more lore in the future. Not spoilers, more lore in the future. I know, I need to catch up on my notes. Yeah, because I'm like 75 chapters behind now on notes. I know, I'll catch up off stream. Alright, yeah. Oh yeah, Klein about to get that bread. Yeah, I know, dude. This is his first mission. I'm excited for him. Well, not his first mission, but this is like his first job as a PI. I'm excited for him. I'm ready to see where it goes. It's probably gonna take a while, right? Since this is his first job. Unless it was like when he was a diviner and like word spreads really good. Like, yo man, this PI, he found out really quickly like what I needed. He can probably write an entire novel just by listing all the lore itself. Yeah, maybe. We'll see how long my notes come out to. Like, I'm just doing it for myself just so I don't forget important info. Because like all that shit that was brought up right now during the meeting with like the different emperors, like I know I'm gonna forget it if I don't have it written down, and like I need to like review my notes like once a week. Seeing Klein makes me seeing Klein get money makes me happy. I am a simple man. Honestly, thinking about it, volume 2 was pretty peak. Okay, I'm excited for next year. I'm so ready to see your reaction for the other volumes in case it's just peak on peak. Oh, I'm excited. I know. I think next year is gonna be a good year for Lord of Mysteries. So starting tomorrow, we're officially in the year where we're getting a new anime. We're getting an official light novel release. We're getting a game. And who knows what else we're gonna get? Like, who knows, right? The possibilities are endless. Who knows? All right. But thank you guys for watching. There was a lot of info in that Terror Club meeting. So much darn info, bro. I have pages of notes and theories for just the 4 Emperor. Dude, there's so much that was revealed. Like, who are they? Who is the Dark Emperor? How is he alive? Is he related to death because Azik is related to Azik? Like, there's so much. Or is that only because what was it that Klein said? He's assumed that it's a sequence 1 for whatever pathway. Like, oh, dude, there's so much, dude. It is indeed a spoiler. Was there a spoiler? Okay, I will not read whatever spoiler we mentioned. Oh, if you answer, it's a spoiler. No, it's okay. So we're gonna leave it right there. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys all in 2025. All right, guys. Wow, I think my voice cracked. Wait, let me redo that. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and I will see you all in 2025. All right, guys. Peace. Wasn't a big spoiler, but small. It's okay. That's all good. I didn't read it just to be safe. All right, guys. Peace. and have a beautiful day or night. All right, later, guys.